Hey, Inspired Tribe, how's it going? It's John Nolan here. Welcome to another inspired conversation. And today, because of a lot of requests, we're finally talking about it. Flat Earth, or what is the shape of the Earth? And who better to invite than Flat Earth David Weiss. Thank you so much for joining us today.
John, thanks for having me. Excited to have a conversation with an open-minded person, but don't have such an open mind that your brain falls out. I don't want anybody to believe anything I say today because belief is the enemy of knowing, right? And ego is the protector of that belief. So I want people, I'm just going to point to a whole bunch of doors that are right in front of you that you've never seen, probably, and ask you to go investigate that. Belief is super easy because you can believe and it takes no effort. Knowing takes time.
I couldn't agree more. And that's really what we always encourage our viewers to do is do your own research, trust your own guidance, come to your own conclusions, because that's what this journey is all about. What we love to do is ask the questions that are not allowed to be asked. That's really important, and why they're not allowed to be asked. But Dave, before we dive too deep into everything that you have discovered over the past years, what happened? What was your turning point? Because I read that 9/11 was a turning point for you. What happened that day for you, and why did it change the trajectory of your life?
Yeah, so I was into, certain deceptions in the world, the Federal Reserve and a whole bunch of things. And then on the morning of 9/11, I was scheduled to fly to LaGuardia. I live in Connecticut. And my friend was in New York City, who I was going out with. And I called him after the first plane. And we're talking on the phone, and then the second plane allegedly hit, and the phones went dead. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm not going. Went down to the beach, and I have a direct shot, super clear day of the towers, and I could see them clear without binoculars, but I have binoculars. And what I saw, it just didn't sit right with me, but I got caught up into the whole, pounding the war drums and everything. And it wasn't until 4 years later that I started seeing some videos like Loose Change and other things that got me to start looking into it. And then I'm like, wow, this is such a big deception. And then it just went from there. And, years later, I started a podcast called Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole. That's what the DITRH stands for right there. Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole. And we looked into all of these deceptions. And, they're all over the place, those that shall not be mentioned on YouTube. And it wasn't until the third year that people started sending me flat earth stuff. Hey, Dave, have you looked into flat earth? And I was just like, that's ridiculous, delete. And then I'm like, these people are serious. And I started banning people forever from our social media. Like, you're banned for life for even suggesting that I take 1 minute out of my day to look into flat earth. We all know the earth is flat. Aristophanes 2000 years ago figured it out in Greece. The sunsets, seasons, day and night, there's ships over the horizon. And then finally another researcher forced me to look. Another researcher who I respect a lot. We were talking about some stuff, and I was like, I can't believe how much deception there is in this world. And she goes, oh, David, it's worse than that. I think the earth might be flat. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Not you too, Sophia. And she's like, here, watch this. And she sent me over a series of videos by Mark Sargent called Flat Earth Clues, where he was having the same issue about flat earth. He's like, you know what? It can't be. And he put out a bunch of questions in short little videos, figured some PhD would get back to him with the answers, but nobody got back. And so more and more clues came out, and then other videos started coming out. And then back in the day, YouTube would go, oh, you like this flat earth? Here, this other guy put up another flat earth video and started feeding me stuff. So I spent 2 weeks with a closed mind, unlike you, trying to debunk flat earth and prove the globe. And here I am 6 or 7 years later. I quit my own company. I'm here talking to people like you, getting this message out, because this is the most important message that needs to get out in these crazy times. So why are you talking about flat earth? The shape of the earth doesn't matter. Look what's going on in the world. Well, first thing is, flat is not a shape. It's a description of level and horizontal. And yes, it does matter. And I think we'll get into that toward a little later on in the discussion.
Okay, so basically, I mean, you pointed something out that was, for the longest time, my MO is kind of, okay, what if it is flat? What is going to change? Is that going to change my life or how I go about it? Now, the thing is, and I told you this many, many years ago, I read the transcripts from Admiral Byrd, who was flying over Antarctica, and who was, I think before it was all closed off completely, or I forgot how he got to that mission. But anyways, he reported that, before he or after he got over the ice and everything, all of a sudden there was a tropical climate and he couldn't explain it. And it was very, very weird. I just realized at that time, just like everything else, these things are not what they're telling us. I have a question before we dive into all of that. Did you ever go into indigenous records and what they're saying about the shape of the earth or non-shape of the earth? Did you look at what tribes all over the world have been saying about it?
Yeah. Is it Brian Cox, the puppet scientist out there, says that there are no flat earthers, right? But if you look at all ancient religion or ancient cultures, they were all flat earth cultures. All of them were flat earth cultures, right? We're told that the Greeks figured it out 2,000 years ago with Aristophanes with his sticks and shadows, but that's not true. It's a made up story put into our history, his story, okay? And, think about this. He's a mathematician, figured out with sticks and shadows, hey, there's no shadow here. And my buddy 500 miles away, who somehow I communicated with, had a shadow, and we did some math. He figured out this exact, very close to like within 1%, according to Carl Sagan, the shape of the earth. But then all of the mathematicians that wrote books after that never mentioned him. That's like writing a history about the Bulls, Chicago Bulls, and leaving out Michael Jordan. Right. And the only time Aristophanes and his experiment showed up is like in the mid 1900s in a books here that the Rockefellers put out in our education system. So what? Good.
No, I see. I heard you say this before, and I of course I didn't go through all the books. I haven't had the time to research that. But that's an interesting fact. You're saying that Aristotle wasn't mentioned at all, or just the shape of the earth wasn't mentioned? His
experiment is not documented before the 1900s, mid 1900s.
Okay.
The earliest book I found was like in the 1980s.
Okay.
I was alive. Okay. And there's other people that said that there's some from the 1950s. I haven't seen it. I don't care if it's 1901. It's still, it's not mentioned for, 2,000 years.
It kind of reminds me of the protocols of the Elders of Zion, where, and then later, and the Pike Mazzini letters. I don't know if you were aware of those letters talking about the 3 world wars that are planned. Now, people say those are fake, but they showed up in literature in the early 1900s.
Absolutely.
Way before World War I, II, and now 3. So, you go, well, it could be a fake, but who cares who wrote it? Someone obviously planned this ahead of time. So we have to look at these things with an open mind and not go with the mainstream science mind here. But I'm going to let you really take it away. What is your approach to show people or give them a gateway into your worldview, quite literally?
So again, flat is not a shape. Level and horizontal is what the earth are measurably, testably, scientifically, provably. The globe model is scientifically impossible. We'll get into a whole bunch of things about that. But here's the thing, that the people that think flat earth is stupid have 2 things in common. 1, they don't know their own model. And 2, the idea they have of a flat earth is a fake flat earth, right? Like any mainstream media that does an article, a story on flat earth, they show this disc or this turn up, like a flat earth, and like that is not what flat earth is. No flat earther believes that. People that believe that the earth is a globe think flat earth is a disc in space with other globe planets, okay, or even other flat planets. No flat earther thinks that. This is they give you a false binary. Well, the earth is either a globe or it's a disc floating in space. None of that is true. So what is flat earth? What is flat earth? Well, large bodies of water at rest lay flat, okay? Scientifically, testably, provably flat, okay? And we can measure these things. If the earth is a ball, do you know how the circumference of the earth is? The diameter, the rotational speed?
I used to know these. I know it's much smaller, at least in that perception than I thought it is.
Right.
So run us through it.
Right. So you know, the question is, you used to know it. Well, let me ask you a question. Where do I live?
You told me you live in Connecticut.
Okay, so is that a belief or do you know it?
No, I don't know. You told me. I don't know.
So it's a belief. It's a weak belief. Yeah. You're looking at my face. You're like, this guy seems pretty honest. Why would he lie about that? So it's a belief.
No, I mean, for you could be on Mars. I don't know. You just told me you're in Connecticut. Yeah.
Right. So belief is easy. Now, if you wanted to verify it, you could go on Facebook maybe, and then you go, oh, I found him. I look at his friends. Look, all of his friends have all these things in Connecticut. And then you find my yearbook from high school. And you're like, okay, now you know. Knowing takes time and effort. If we had to verify every single thing that anyone tells us, we'd have no time to do anything. This world, we are required to trust and believe. And if everybody was good and honest, the world would be an amazing place.
And it's very opposed to the organic natural world or natural space where we don't have to believe anything because experience teaches us. And you can believe what you will about the depth, of a body of water. You're going to discover if you don't swim how deep it is. So that's a whole different approach. But please go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So for those of you who don't know, where the Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour at the equator. Okay, 1,000 miles an hour. And now the globers will go, well, that's around once every 24 hours. You don't even see the hour hand on a clock moving. And that's twice the speed because it goes around twice in a day. Well, it's not the angular speed, it's the linear speed. You ever go on one of those adult Ferris merry-go-rounds that goes really fast? And if you're smaller, they put you on the inside. If you're bigger, they put you on the outside, and it's literally trying to throw you off. I don't care if you're on a merry-go-round that's spinning around once a day, you wouldn't even know it's moving. But if you expand that out to 24 miles, now it's going a mile an hour. 24 miles in circumference. Now it's going a mile an hour. Okay, I'm moving. It's still pretty boring. Now move it out to 1,000 miles or 20. Let's go. Well, if we go to 1,000 miles, it's going a lot faster. Okay. If you spin it out to the diameter of the Earth, the circumference of the Earth, which they tell us is just over 24,000 miles, you're going 1,000 miles an hour.
But isn't this kind of explained by this is a closed atmosphere and therefore we could go at 1,000,000 miles an hour and still wouldn't know it?
But that's if you're going in a straight line. So people say I can drink my glass of water on an airplane and walk to the bathroom. And I say, well, if you really want to compare that to the Earth, double the speed of the airplane, remove the outer shell of the airplane because the Earth doesn't have an outer shell, and then have the pilot nose down a mile a minute, right? A mile a minute, right? That's as fast as a skydiver is falling, right? That would just to follow the curve of the Earth at 1,000 miles an hour, you have to drop a mile a minute, okay? That's crazy. Curving is acceleration. If you're in a car going 100 miles an hour, 1,000 miles an hour, it doesn't matter. Smooth road, smooth suspension, and you got a dinner plate and you fill it with water, no problem. That car speeds up, slows down, or takes the slightest turn. That water is going to slosh. Neil deGrasse Tyson, the failed actor, he tells us that because of the spin of the world, the water bulges 14 miles high at the equator. And I always thought that was the coolest thing ever. 14 miles high. That's higher than Mount Everest, I think. I think it's higher than Mount Everest. 14 miles high. An airplane flies at about 5,000.
It's much higher than Mount Everest.
Yeah. So where's the best viewing spot of that bulge? Okay. And an airplane flying from where I am in Connecticut to South America, let's say I want to go down to Santiago. At what point do I triple my altitude just to skim over that hump of water at the equator? Right. The answer is airplane flies straight and level over an Earth plane. Why am I showing Antarctica? They tell us Antarctica is a continent at the bottom of the ball. And they also tell us some truth that it's the highest land plateau on Earth, right? So I always found that very interesting. But if you Google Antarctica from space, you only see cartoons, okay? There's only cartoons when you see it. So here's a question for you. I'm going to describe what the flat Earth is. When it rains and water accumulates in a puddle, where does that puddle accumulate? At the top of a hill, on the side of a hill, or at the bottom of the hill?
Well, at the bottom of the hill.
At the bottom. And what contains the water? With land that's higher than it all the way around it, so it'll contain the water. So the puddle is laying flat. The land is containing it, giving its lateral pressure. Expand that out to a pond, expand that out to a lake, which is just a bigger pond. What contains the water in the lake? It's the land that's consistently all the way around higher. Because if you lowered some of the land, it would just run off. You'd have a river and the lake would run off somewhere else. So the water is contained. Think of our world as a giant lake. Okay. All of the continents, all the islands are surrounded by water. And all of that water is surrounded by the highest land on earth, the container for our pond. This container is called Antarctica. Okay. Antarctica could be bigger than all of the continents and all of the oceans combined. We don't know because no one's allowed to go beyond.
We're not allowed to go there. And haven't all the countries agreed on this? This is where it gets so strange to me. It's like everybody agrees this is off limits. Nobody tries, nobody fights because they all agree this is off limits. So this is where one of the big questions for me comes in. How do they all agree on that?
Yeah, so back in the time when we were all fighting over resources and wars and everything, Admiral Byrd flies out and he goes, there's a continent beyond the poles. That's a problem on a globe. He goes, that is bigger than the United States, filled with resources that no human has ever stepped foot upon. Right? So filled with resources, no human, and warmer lands that he talked about. And then all of a sudden, all of the countries in the world sign on to the Antarctic Treaty. That was in 1959. I think it went into effect in 1961, and you can't question it until the year 2041. There's no treaty on anything ever that has ever lasted that long. This one is still in place. And when you, if you try to, you're not even allowed to question it. 2041, right?
Can I ask a question? I heard about newspaper articles from the early 1900s. Couldn't dig them up yet. That from explorers who actually described warmer climate, landmass beyond Antarctica. Are you aware of that? Familiar with that? Is there some legitimacy to that?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of articles and talking. There's a whole bunch of articles on that, and there's also video of people. Well, backing up, I'm sorry. There's a bunch of stories and books. Have you heard of the Iron Republic?
No.
So the Iron Republic is a story of a politician here in the United States that kind of got fed up with politics and stuff, and he sold everything, bought a nice big ship, got a crew, and went exploring Antarctica. And when he got there, he found an inlet. He went in. He was trying to follow it, and then all of a sudden, he's back out in the ocean again, and they got lost. They're lost at sea. They couldn't figure out where they were for about a month. Then finally, they found land. And they were kind of approaching the land, and at night they looked, there's a city, and they approached the city. They waited till the morning. In the morning, a boat came out and greeted them, spoke English, and said, "Where are we? We're from America." He goes, "Well, we're from the Iron Republic." He goes, "Where's that?" And they said, "Well, the Iron Republic is on the other side of Antarctica, about the same distance that the United States is." Right. So the guy stayed there, I think, for a couple of years, and he got married. He met a woman, and then she died or something, and then he finally came back and told the story, and it was published in a series of articles in Florida Magazine, which you cannot find a single copy of those articles in any magazine. They've all been removed. With the internet and eBay, you can find anything you want. They're all gone. But there's a book about it called The Iron Republic, and he described a world of advanced people with an advanced civilization and advanced technologies and just a whole different way of government and stuff. And the story was, these were people that came from where we live in the 1600s, but there was tyranny going on, and they didn't like the tyranny. So they went out. So whether the story is true or not, it rings true to me. It doesn't matter. In 1901, they were talking about more land beyond Antarctica. So what do I mean by that? What if the world was set up this way? And he went out and he found this little thing. He went through it, and then he's floating around out at sea, and all of a sudden he finds more land, right? What do you call this? Extra land. Extra land? More land? Extra territory? Extra terra. So if somebody lives in this outer area and they come to visit us in this inner area, what might you consider them?
When they come from extraterrestrials?
From where?
Well, as you just said,
the outer space. Extraterrestrials from the outer space. And they probably speak English, right? They may have lived in here in the past. They can travel, if they're traveling back and forth, it's a day trip. I mean, they could send an extraterrestrial in here to do their thing and make it back for dinner with the kids same day.
Which would also, we've heard over the years many times in communications from people that claim they have communications with extraterrestrials, that the fear of a nuclear war on Earth is the only thing, or basically that's the only thing they want to interfere with, because it has a chain reaction for the other civilizations. Now you go, if we're on a spinning ball in space, how exactly would that mess up something millions of miles away? But if this model is closer to truth, then this would make a whole lot more sense that nuclear would actually affect the other worlds much more.
So now you have me in a tight spot, because I'm here for those, you have an open mind, you're looking into this, and we're going to get into it more and show you what I'm talking about is actually scientifically possible and probable. But you're mentioning nuclear bombs. Now I'm torn. Do I? I
know what you're gonna say. I know exactly what you're gonna say. Where I came to nuclear was totally different than mainstream.
Yeah.
And the nuclear reaction and the possibility of this. So I'm still pretty convinced, maybe not in the way we're told, but that this way of energy expansion does exist, and this way of destructive energy expansion does exist. But that's just me.
That's a whole nother thing. So again, I'm going to point towards a whole bunch of doors, and people can go research and make up their own minds. Do not believe me. I'm just showing you stuff that's been gate kept. We've been gate kept. Right, we've been put in the Matrix. Right, I always use the analogy of Keanu Reeves, Neo in the Matrix. At the beginning of the first movie, he's depressed. He's plugged into the Matrix. He doesn't know what's going on. The world, it doesn't seem right, and that's everybody. That the people are. I think the being plugged into the Matrix is part of the reason people are depressed, because their soul knows the truth. It's trying to talk to them, but their mind and their ego is being steered by the news, north, east, west, south, with fear, false evidence appearing real, and they don't know what's going on. But then you look at Neo at the end of the movie, put them side by side, Neo at the end, Neo at the beginning. This guy, the guy at the end, he's taken back his power. He sees the world. The condition of the world doesn't even matter. He's taken back his power. He's not feeding the Matrix anymore. The Matrix is the heliocentric system. So that's another thing right there. So again, let's talk about these distances. So these are just thousands, a couple thousand, 10,000, 20,000 miles, not a big deal, 30,000 miles, whatever it is. And when I first heard about flat Earth, I'm like, well, what about aliens, right? They have to exist. Well, the closest star, do you know how close the closest star is?
No.
In the heliocentric model, it's Alpha Centauri. It's 4.5 light years away, which is about 25 trillion miles. Okay, 25 trillion miles. That's the closest star, and the others are magnitudes farther. So 25 trillion miles. Let's figure that out. If you do you know how long 1 trillion seconds is?
No, I mean, it sounds like a damn long time.
Take a guess. How long? 1 trillion seconds. Seconds are fast.
Seconds. Yeah, I know. So there's 60 seconds in an hour.
Don't do the math. Just take a guess.
I don't know. Many years.
How many? Just take one guess.
100 years.
Very close. 31,000 years. Okay. So 1 trillion seconds is 31,000 years. So if you're traveling at a mile per second, which no human has ever gone that speed, for 31,000 years, you're 1/25th of the way to the closest star. You got to do that 24 more times. Right. And you believe that one, you can see light at that distance. You can see the angular size. There's two problems with distance and light. As light spreads out, every time you double its distance, it's a quarter of the brightness. It's called the inverse square law. Okay. So it's a quarter of the brightness every time you double the distance. For the moon and the brightness that we see a full moon, if you were 100 miles from the moon, it would have to be 64 times brighter than we see the sun for us to see it at the brightness that we see it. Okay. All of the numbers, the actual science, flat earthers love science. We just don't pay attention to scientism, which is nonsense. So The inverse square law is one problem. And the other thing is angular resolution. So if our sun was a mile above the earth, it would look like this, right? It would fill the whole screen, fill the whole sky, horizon to horizon. And then we move it 93 million miles away. Because it's going away, it's getting smaller. And when it's 93 million miles away, where they tell us the sun is, it's about the size of a coin held at arm's length. You with me? So if I doubled that distance, how much smaller would it get? Now, most people would realize, well, it would get so much smaller you couldn't see it, which is true. Other people say, what's good? Sorry?
No, I just want to say these things never made sense to me. The distances, the movement of the stars, how they're placed, and how it just never made sense to me. And it because you're still, people, and they're saying, well, it's different because they're in space, but we still have, if the theory were true, our eyes would still have to perceive what is within the atmosphere, which of course distorts things. But all of that doesn't apparently matter.
Right.
Yeah.
But so if you double the distance, it gets too small to see. But let's just say it makes it half the size. So let's just be safe. 24 times the distance. Right. And by the way, the math I'm doing right now is super simple, but people short circuit because we weren't taught to think this way. 24 times the distance is magnitudes too far, where the angular size is too small for our eyes to resolve. You can't see a penny at 200 yards because its angular size is smaller than the receptors in your eye can process. Okay, that's called the angular resolution limits of your eyes. So 24 times 8 light minutes away, that's how far they tell us the sun is 3 light hours. So at 3 light hours, according to the sizes that NASA gives us, the sun is magnitudes too small to see. Well, Polaris, which is our North Star, they tell us it's 46 to 48 times bigger. Let's just round up. 48 times 3 light hours is 6 light days. Let's round it up to a week. Polaris at a light week away is the same angular size as our sun, 24 times farther, and than it is right now, and you can't see it. So at a light week, we have just scientifically proven that you can't see Polaris, and they tell us it's 433 light years away.
Which, wouldn't it also mean that by the time the light of the sun reaches us, that was a long time ago when that light actually began? So there's thousands of years of gaps here in between when light leaves the apparent sun and when it comes here. Same with the stars. So basically, we're so far in the past by the time we see this, according to this model, which is another thing that just never sit right with me. It just didn't make sense.
Well, it doesn't sit right with you because it's theoretical nonsense. Think about this. You got a light and you're holding it, it's lighting up itself. So its light is just in that sphere. Now you got to expand it out. It's the same amount of light getting stretched thinner. I always relate it to a balloon. So the balloon material is the light. I blow the balloon up to this big, right? It's still got some rubber. I blow it up to this big, a couple feet wide. It's getting pretty thin. I blow it up to a mile wide. Could you even see? Could you even detect it? Light is like sound. It's a wave, and it gets weaker and spreads out and fades to nothing in a relatively short distance. Okay. Is this hundreds of trillions of miles away, a burning ball of gas in an impossible space vacuum? Or is this something that's right here within our Earth system, some energetic energy? Don't ask me what stars are. I think that stars are sentient in nature, and that's my opinion. But this is this Capella? This is Capella, and you can see this with your naked eye. Get a super zoom camera, zoom in, slow it down a little bit. This is what you see. What is this? Right? Yeah. It's truly amazing. Here's a whole bunch of different stars. Now, some are in focus, some are questionably in focus. They're here within our Earth system. They're not these crazy distances away. When we look at wandering stars, which they call planets, they're supposedly reflecting sunlight. Like Mars, a dusty, dirty ball on Mars is reflecting light brighter than most stars, than stars in the sky. That makes no sense. Jupiter. Have you ever looked up and seen Jupiter in the sky? Right?
Well, yes. Okay. I mean, I do believe I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the light that we call Jupiter, absolutely, You've seen it. And it's brighter than any star. Well, Jupiter is um is a gas planet, right? It's a gas. Well, they tell us it's a gas planet. So if you were on Jupiter looking at our sun's not going to be the size of a coin held at arm's length. It's going to be the size of a pinhead because it's that far away. So that distant sun is reflecting off of the gaseous, non-reflective surface and then coming all the way back, ignoring the inverse square law, to our eyes where it's brighter than any star in the sky. Okay. Have you ever thought about this?
Not in a way you just, I mean, you see, I sit under the stars, especially when I'm on the beach, far away from everywhere where we're staying. It's very, very far away right now. So it gets very, very beautiful and bright at night. And the thing is, if I would have been taught the model you're now showing us from the get-go, I would have believed it without questioning it. And it would have probably made more sense from the get-go than the model I was taught. That to me. But I do want to intersect with a question here. And this is something that, I mean, if you've seen the movie Wag the Dog.
Oh, yeah. The documentary. Go ahead.
Yeah. So a lot of people always say, well, how could you fake all the NASA and the space travel and the different countries and rivaling countries and all that? And I would say, listen, don't even go this far. We are being told over decades that things are going on in another country on the other side of the world. And it's not true. We're just being told wag the dog because we're not there. Like you say, we don't know. We just believe the images that we see. And if we go there, we actually go, oh, wait a minute. This is not at all like what we've been told. So to me, the argument that, man, there's NASA, there's space travel, there's the International Space Station, all of that doesn't really sit well with me because there's only a handful of institutions that control all of this. So this is not hard to do. What I wanted to ask you, Dave, is over the years, because knowledge is so compartmentalized and distorted, what I find is even the way we measure things, even the standards, the formulas, the math, even that in some ways has been distorted or things taken out. Have you find it difficult to use the scientific terms and formulas and apply them to the way you're looking at things? Or did you have to completely open your mind to new ways of looking at things?
Well, I've definitely opened my mind to new ways looking at things. And the question is, what's the correct formula for the curve of the Earth? So when I first started looking into this, I started watching boats over the horizon. And I was like, well, I live on the water. I've seen boats go over the horizon. And then I see how people can zoom in and they bring them back into view most of the time, right? And so then I started looking into that. I bought a $1,000 P900 super zoom camera when it first came out. And I zoomed in on buoys that should be 66 feet below the curve. I can see this 10-foot tall buoy, right? I'm like, something's wrong with the formula. And I went to the flat earth debunking government run sites. I'm like, what are they saying? And they're like, well, when you're not here and the buoy's over here, you're here and the buoy's over here. And so it's only half of the distance. That's ridiculous. But you know what? I give you the handicap because I don't need it. 33 feet of curvature. I can still see it. It's only 10 feet tall, right? I zoomed in on beaches where there should have been 20, 30 feet of curvature. And I see people sitting at the water's edge. And I'm sitting at the water's edge. I'm like, how is this possible if the Earth is curved? Maybe the Earth is bigger. Maybe the Earth is bigger. So then we got infrared and we started looking at stuff and we can see stuff. Well, the Earth would have to be 1,000 times bigger than they're telling us, right? For us to see these things. Well, that's a problem. Okay. Imagine if we did live on a ball, but it's 1,000 times bigger. So we live on a tiny little section. Well, what's going on in the rest of the world? Maybe there's not tyranny going on there. So again, this is the heliocentric system is a prism for your mind. Let me just show you a quick thing on perspective. So there's no boat here and the sky and the land are together. And as we zoom in and we start increasing the angular size. And all of a sudden you can see there's a boat there. Okay. The boat's there, but it's out of view. As I zoom out, these little waves in the foreground start hiding the boat from the bottom up. And now if this boat was just sailing away and you were heliocentrist, you would go, it's going over the curve. That's why you can only see the mast and the whole thing is gone. Now it's over the curve. No, it's not. It's out of your ability to see. It's out of
How far away is that?
So that's a good question because it is a boat that's moving. So that is the the flat Earth anti-flat earthers, globers, will say, you don't know how far that is. It's not that far away. I just showed you how it looks like it's disappearing from the bottom up. Okay. But here's something that we do know how far away it is. This is a oil rig. It's 9.4 miles away. It doesn't seem like that far, but this camera is only 1 foot off the ground. The horizon for a camera 1 foot off the ground over calm water should be 1.2 miles away. I think let's just call it 2 miles away. Okay. There should be 59 feet of curvature here, but we can see the surface of the water for dozens of miles beyond it. Okay. And
so what is the number one debunking thing that you get on this particular thing? Because that, I mean, they probably jump on this a lot.
Yeah. Refraction. The refraction is lifting the water up and stopping it right at eye level in the back. And it's also lifting the water up in front to level it out with the back. It's the dumbest thing ever. I mean, like it's made up mumbo jumbo nonsense. So people go, well, if the earth is flat, how come I can't see, I can't see Europe? I'm like, well, first, what are you going to see? What are you going to see? Like its angular size is too small, but the problem is the atmosphere is too thick for the light to attenuate. So you see me now, or you see the light that's bouncing off of me? You see the light that's bouncing off me.
I see the light. I see information. I see information. I see frequency actually that's being translated through technology, and then my brain and all of that. Yeah.
If I turned off all the lights, it was pitch black, you wouldn't see me. Okay. So the light. So out here, this is Illusion, France. Out here is Mount Canigou, 175 miles away. From this altitude, at that distance, the top of Mount Canigou should be well over a half a mile below the curve. The top of the mountain should be more than a half a mile below the curve. And the light that's bouncing off of Mount Canigou is not bright enough to push through 175 miles of thick atmosphere. But the sun migrates, and we'll show you in a minute, from tropic to tropic, from Capricorn to Cancer. But twice a year, it lines up with Mount Canigou. And when it lines up with Mount Canigou, it backlights it, and all of a sudden you can see it. And right here, the top of the highest point should be more than a half a mile below the curve, but there it is. It's right here. It's not a mirage. It's absolutely 100% positively viewable.
So what is here's one thing that I remember seeing, and this could be just as fake, but I remember the stratosphere jump, Red Bull. I don't know if you remember that. And so you go up, and I mean, of course, footage can always be manipulated, but you could see a curvature, which doesn't necessarily mean the Earth is.
I never heard the Red Bull jump. Could you tell me about it? So this is Felix Baumgartner. I'll never get his name right, and everybody always criticizes
Felix Baumgartner. That's actually
Baumgartner. Okay,
yeah.
So he even said in an interview, "I could see the curvature of the Earth." Now I'm on the fence. I don't know. I haven't talked to him. I don't know his story. He could have been saying, "Hey, Felix, when you go up there, you're going to see the curve of the Earth." Well, one, he's wearing a curved glass goggles. Okay. And so he might have thought he sees the curvature of the Earth. And they also, the radius of your vision is the same distance in all directions where the sky meets. That's a curve. And your brain, your programming tells you it's a sphere. Well, we got the high res of this, and we zoomed in, and we could see this river and this mountain, and we could see all of this stuff. And this is all New Mexico. Did you know that New Mexico was covered that much of the Earth? Right? That is clearly a fisheye lens, right? When you put that curve on a ball, New Mexico. Oh, yeah,
I can make this room appear round with a fisheye lens. I've seen it many times. Yeah.
Right. And they did two space jumps before that without GoPros, and then the one that they aired, they changed it to GoPros. So at 127,000 feet, the horizon should have dropped down to here. But here is Felix when he opened up the door with a non-fisheye lens, and here's the horizon. And here's when he got in before it even took off. Look, the horizon's at the same level. He went up 127,000 feet, and the horizon stayed at the same level. Pretty
interesting.
Pretty absolutely amazing, if you ask me.
Why do you think they allowed them to do it? Because I don't think you can. I mean, you can send a balloon up. And who has anyone done it? Send a balloon up high enough and just film it?
Yeah, we've done it. We've done hundreds of them. And I have balloon videos. I'll show you where to get them all. And we've seen amazing things. The problem is, even from the higher you go, the farther you can see because the air gets clearer and clearer. But when you're looking down, that whole horizon is rising up to your eye level. It becomes opaque, and when it becomes opaque, you can't see the actual horizon, right?
What does that mean? What does that mean?
So, is this the horizon right here, or is it really farther than that? It's just that when the air becomes opaque, it looks like sky. So the horizon will appear to be closer to you. Let me see if I have where would I have? I have a good image that will demonstrate it. On a foggy day, a slightly foggy day, if you're at the water and you're looking out, the horizon is it's much closer. It might only be like a half, 100 yards away and whatnot. But when it's clearer, you can see farther and farther and farther. And then it comes to a point where it just mirages out. Everything merges into that vanishing point, which is the limit of your vision. Okay.
And I've observed this. Here's a bigger question, because I know we can go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into this. Yeah. And people can go to your channels because you've been doing this for a long time. There is a lot of in-depth, and I encourage everyone to do it. But not just Dave, go and create your own experiments around this. But here's my question to you. What does our current model, our belief about the globe, what does it limit us from? And what does it not allow us to see or even question? Because the thing with this is, because our belief is this is a ball and there's space, and there's really, it requires a lot of technology and money and material and special expertise to exit this space, go through the atmosphere, and then be out there, and then you wouldn't know what to do anyways. So what it does to us is it makes us isolated and says we can't look beyond what we see. But what have you seen beyond this, what appears to be the globe? Because that's the most important question, is what does it hinder us from seeing? Yes.
Let me show you two more things, and then I'll fully answer. Okay. Them. So here are the mountains, and as the air is thicker and thicker, is this the horizon here, or are there more mountains out here, and more mountains out here, and more mountains out here? Okay. The truth is, there's more mountains farther out. On a clearer day, I could see farther. So you think this is a horizon, but it's a false horizon, because the horizon is relative to your position and relative to the atmospheric clarity.
Of course. Yeah. And on a real rainy day, you won't even see the mountain. You won't
even see here.
And so, that would be the horizon line. Yeah.
That would be the horizon line. So that's how that works. So here's another touchy one. And it's about space travel. First, divide and conquer. Well, all the division of all countries is all division. It's all fake. It's all fake. You've heard, all the wars were pre-planned. We're financing both sides of the war. All the division of countries, they divide us by countries, by religions, by sexes, by race, by genders.
The boxes are getting ever smaller.
And they're dividing. So I just want to show you, this is Elon Musk. Everyone says he's a hero. I have a video. I'll send you, and you maybe want to link it.
I don't say that, Dave.
No, not you, but there's a lot of people that are like, he's a hero. Yeah. This is the guy. Watch this. This is unedited. This is them. So here's a side shot. This little flame is putting this multi-ton rocket going up. Now look at the angle we have. Now we get this far shot. Now we're going to have now look at this. Watch the smoke. Use your thinking mind. Now look how high it is. This is a shot. And now look how low it is, right? Because we have a side view of it. Like, how far could that be? Now look how high it is. Watch again. Now the engines are off. This is 40,000 pounds free falling. Look at the smoke. How fast is this thing? This thing's free falling. Imagine throwing a car off the Empire State Building. Look at the smoke. It's barely moving. This looks more like a balloon if it's not CGI. Now look how high it is. This is unedited. This is what they showed us. Now we're going to watch the landing. It's going to be amazing. One more shot from on board. This is, look how high it is all of a sudden. And then now it's going to go, the engines are going to turn on, 3 engines. That is going to be an edit. and the cameraman's going to get right underneath it. Ready? Edit. And now 2 of the 3 engines are going to go off. Now this wobbling thing is balancing upright, right? Again, look at the speeds, look at the smoke, watch the CGI smoke. This thing's going to land. CGI smoke. It's wobbling and it's landing upright, and it looks like a phallic symbol. Okay. They are rubbing this in our face. This was real. Now, if I showed this to somebody and said, is this from the Thunderbirds cartoon, or is it from Elon Musk? No one's going to say Elon Musk, but this is real. This is what they're showing us.
So it's all for show. Why? Why the show? What is the purpose?
Why the lie, right? I'm going to tell you why the lie, and then there's tons of great documentaries on why the lie. So they don't want us in a situation where everybody can't deny the creator. Okay. Before I learned about flat Earth, I was, I guess, an atheist. I never really labeled myself, but I was like, I don't believe any of that. I believe Big Bang happened, nothing exploded, and it turned into everything, and then lightning struck and created DNA, and it turned into an amoeba, and the amoeba found another sexy amoeba and had a fish, and the fish climbed out of the water, found another legged fish, and had a monkey.
That story never made sense to me.
And then the monkey had a deformed baby, and it was a human. Okay, this is absolute nonsense. And then when I realized, oh my God, this place is intelligently designed, we're at the center of creation, I had to accept the fact that there's a creator. And not that I was a bad guy, but some of the choices I made in life, I've changed. I've become a better person. I was a good person, don't get me wrong. But once you understand that you're at the center of creation, you're not spinning out of control, corkscrewing through an infinite, impossible space vacuum where an asteroid could take you out. We're running out of water, running out of resources, running out of land, running out of food. All of that is nonsense. All of it is nonsense. They made up all of these stories, from dinosaurs to nuclear bombs, to keep us in fear. Because when you're in fear and you believe the nonsense on the news, you will allow people to take away your free will. They're not allowed to take away our free will. We have to give them permission. Okay. And
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So they're always telling us what they're doing. They always tell us what they do, what they're going to do. And if we don't say no, we're saying yes. And people don't realize the power that they have. If everybody watched this video, imagine, the 7.8 billion people, that's also a lie, watch this video, and everyone goes, you know what? These guys are making sense. I'm no longer paying attention to the governments. Well, they're all gone. They literally evaporate, and we won't even know who they are, right? But once this becomes mainstream, once everybody realizes that, everything changes. All governments collapse. All currencies are going to collapse, right?
Do you think all governments are aware of what you're saying?
All of the big governments. There might be some little rogue countries and stuff that, some leaders got in there. But you can see that they're quickly getting taken out. Everybody remembers Muammar Gaddafi as an evil tyrant, when in reality, if you looked into what he did, he was the greatest leader of all time. On my channel, DITRH, my YouTube channel, DITRH, I have a lot of short videos. Just if you go to my channel and look up The Great Man-Made River by Muammar Gaddafi, it'll make you cry. Do you know about The Great Man-Made River?
Yeah, I've looked into him a lot, and I mean, naturally, the people that were taken out over time weren't always what they were made out to be, and he did a lot of good things for his people. Yeah,
he took them from the poorest country to the most educated country. Free electricity, gas was like 14 cents. If you got married, they give you $50,000 towards a house. He got rid of homelessness. But one thing, when he was looking for oil, he discovered primary water, which is pristine ancient water below us. Waters are below, waters above. That's a whole flat Earth thing. And he built the largest aquifer project in human history that we're aware of. It took him 40 years. And he was giving out, hey, your family wants to be a farmers? Here's cattle, seeds, land, water, everything. And organic farms were popping up all across Africa. He was going to feed all of them, everybody. 40 years, it was almost completed, and then the UN went in there and blew it up with depleted uranium bombs. Biggest crime in humanity, and nobody knows about it. Nobody knows about it.
So
good.
No, I'm trying to, if people come to this, and
Yeah.
I want to jump a few steps ahead before you go and dive in, because this is going to take a while. And as I told you, this has never been of such huge interest. I'm working my way through layers, and I'm often coming at it from a more spiritual side. And there's the 7 doors to heaven and the 7 doors to hell, if you will, or the 7 layers. And you're advancing in this. But you have a beautiful little video on your channel that shows what it really might look like. You've shown us one map, but then there's one with 173 or 178 worlds. Yes, that's the one.
Yeah. So just imagine this. So when I was talking about our pond, you know what? Let me just show you one other thing, and we'll come right back to this, because that'll help everyone understand it. So one of the things that's big when people say, well, what about circumnavigation? Okay. So imagine this is the Earth here. This is our pond, and it's in Kansas, and let's say it's 25 miles around. Okay. In the center of the pond is a magnetic mountain. So I got my compass, and it's pointing to the center of the pond. I'm trying to push this compass west. West is a circle. West is a circle around our flat pond, so I can circumnavigate. If I go east, I'm just not looking where I'm going. I'm just following my compass 90 degrees, and I end up right back where I started from.
But you are turning the compass.
I'm turning the boat or the plane because I'm trying to maintain a heading. Now, look, I'm going to head west. That stick represents west from this point. As soon as I start moving, if I don't correct to the right, I'm now heading south. South is every direction away from north. You have your back to north. And that's how circumnavigation works. Now, if the Earth were flat, you wouldn't be able to go from like Santiago, Chile, and pop up over in Australia. You wouldn't be able to go south from here and pop up over here. You would disappear. Well, guess what? Nobody has circumnavigated the Earth south. Billions have done it east and west. Now I'm going north, 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 north. And as soon as I pass north, the compass just did a 180. I'm heading south on the same line.
Where are people being cut off, or were they in the past when they tried to do it south?
So when if you try to go to Antarctica, if you go 60 degrees south, anything beyond there, you will be stopped by military, because there's 7 or 8 islands, one of them the Falkland Islands. If you remember the Falklands War, I'm like, what was that about? And they're all covered. They're all they have military bases. So I'm trying to find a quick video. Here you go. So a couple of fishermen tried to do it. They were going, and they went past 60 degrees south. And I'll just fast forward here. And all of a sudden on the horizon shows a friggin' warship. And they send a drone after them, and they're radioing them. And they're like, you're in restricted waters. Get out of here. And they literally told them they had to turn around. You cannot go to Antarctica. Now people go, wait a minute. I can go on vacation there. You could spend $20 to $50 or more, $50,000 or more. And you go just to the Antarctic, to a little peninsula. So let me go back to my map for a second. And they take you off of Santiago, and they'll take you to a little island, which is just off of Santiago. There's my map. There we go, Gleason's map. So this is the best map that we have. So if you go off of Santiago, there's a little island out here, and that's where they take you. That island's bigger than some countries, and they'll show you the ice. They'll show you some penguins, and they'll kick you out. No one's allowed to go out here. Okay.
What is their argument? What is their reasoning?
You have to protect the pristine ice. It's the only pristine place in the world, and the migratory paths of the penguins. But please go to the Amazon, cut down the lungs of our world, displace people, sterilize them, do whatever you have to do, but just don't go to Antarctica that's filled with resources, no people, no animals, no plants, right? Don't go there, because we have to protect the ice. Isn't that crazy?
Well, it is. So is your theory that the elites of our world are traveling there and are having vacation homes outside of our realm?
That is a possibility. So I'm not, I don't know, but I think that there's more worlds. I think there's more continents within our world. When you wrap the map around a sphere, you lose huge, pizza slices as it crumbles together on the bottom. So GPS keeps us out of these areas of the southern oceans. There could be continents there as big as the United States, right? That's within our world. What about beyond, outside of Antarctica? And we'll go back to the map that you liked, which I like too. I call this puddle theory. If we live here, right? And this is our puddle and our sun circles around here. And I'll show you how that works. Well, there could be other puddles here, just tens or, 20, 50, 100,000 miles away, a couple 100,000 miles away here across the Earth plane. That's scientifically possible. Maybe this whole thing is enclosed, and then each of our little worlds is enclosed in its own electromagnetic or biblical dome. I don't know. But here's the thing. Whether this map is accurate, whether this map represents what could be out there, whether we have rings, whether there's nothing else, we deserve the right to go and explore our world. But it's off limits to everybody. And all of the countries in the world have agreed upon this and aren't wavering, right? There's only 2 times in my life that I can remember all of the countries in the world agreeing. You can't go to Antarctica and you need to get this. Yeah. Okay? All the countries in the world, with all of the differences and all of the nonsense, everyone agrees on these 2 things.
Do you believe they're connected?
Absolutely. They don't want us to know, because here's the thing. The flat earth community, let me show you the flat earth community. The flat earth community is unplugged from the heliocentric matrix, and none of us have that thing. Okay. This is the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. I built this app actually for myself so I can show people, but how it worked. It was a very simple app, and now it's got so much content. And because of YouTube censorship, it's literally the way that you can find information. Like if you Google flat Earth, you get all propaganda, you get nonsense, you get, Straw Man Dan and Not Professor Dave and all of these other, government planted shills that just mock you and make, God, they're talking in such a condescending voice. I'm not going to look at any of this. But what I do every day, there's a new video here. And you know what I offer for those of you that are doubting, for those of you that are going, this is crazy, I'm unsubscribing. Ask yourself, what's your best globe proof? And the problem is you don't have one. And what I tell people is I offer 3 Bitcoins for 1 globe proof, but you have to watch the daily video every day for 2 weeks. At the end of that, you have to hit the question mark. If you think you have a proof, hit the question mark, and up come all of the questions that you have. Why the lie? Amazing videos in there. What about gravity? What about ships over the horizon? That's the one that got me. If I click ships over the horizon, what's going on here? Oops. If I click ships over the horizon, up comes a playlist of videos that will show you, they'll do the work for you and show you how to go do it yourself. And Google won't show you any of these videos, right? If you search for them, flat Earth, ships over the horizon, they're going to show you, nonsense stuff that's going to make you laugh at flat Earth. There's also tons of other resources. Like Art, when you post this video, it'll be right here under flat Earth interviews, right? All sorts of stuff. You've looked into the mud floods a little bit, Tartaria.
Yeah.
Tons of videos here. All sorts of stuff. Books. I was talking about the Iron Republic is right there, and we didn't even get into emergency landings. That's, if we have time, I'll show you that. Amazing stuff. Kids books, amazing kids books. Okay, and and I just started a homeschooling section. Amazing stuff. We're going to add more and more and more to this. So, and
what's the name of the app?
It's called the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. Really difficult to remember. Just remember flatearthdave.com. Everything's linked right there. Or if you're able to scan this code. The app is $3, Android and Apple. It's one of the highest rated apps ever. There is a subscription that you don't need to get. The subscription will give you the ability to send outgoing messages to other people. It gives you access to a great weather app, and it also allows you to view profiles. But these are all of the people that are just around me, right? And all the ones that have little people in them, those are people that filled out profiles. So I can click on it. I can check out their profile. People are using this as friend finder, as a romantic partner finder, as job working opportunities, homesteading opportunities. All of these people are like-minded, right? If I click on the bottom on that little number, I can get a quick world view. These are the people that have my app that are flat earthers. I mean, they're everywhere. Look at the UK. It is out of control. And it's growing exponentially. So this is using their technology to bring us for to bring us together. But the app is more than just a friend finder. Let me explain Seasons, because Seasons is one that people go, oh, that makes perfect sense. So if you and I were sitting here, you came up to visit me in Connecticut in the middle of winter, and we're sitting outside in a field. The field's frozen, and we're 20 feet apart. It's freezing, right? Trying to drink a beer, and the beer keeps freezing. But if somebody came over to you and held a giant heat lamp on a pole 15 feet above your head, you'd be like, it feels great, right? It's directly above you. You'd melt all the snow around you. Your beer would defrost. And I'd say, hey, where's that lamp, your sun? And you go, it's right up there. And I go, I see it over there, like not as high in the sky. And I can barely feel the heat. It's far away. Now, if that person walked over to me without lowering it, I'd watch that lamp get higher and higher and higher until it's right up there. And then you'd be going, it's down lower in the sky. That's how our seasons work. So this inner line here is the Tropic of Cancer. The outer yellow line is the Tropic of Capricorn. And the sun migrates in between those two lines. So in June, it's hot in Miami. You're in Florida, I think.
Right now, yeah.
Yeah, that's a belief, by the way. So it's directly over Miami, California. It's hot in June. This is June, but it's winter in Australia. 6 months later, the sun migrates out to the Tropic of Capricorn. That's their winter. It's far away from me in Connecticut. Everything freezes. Okay. When you actually look into seasons, if you go to the seasons button, what about seasons? There's some videos there that will really explain it way better than I just did. And you'll realize seasons prove the earth is a flat plane. Seasons absolutely 100% prove it. How's that?
So here's my thing. Our viewers are going to have questions, of course, and I point them to your Flat Earth Dave website, where everything is there, and you can study this in depth, and you can go and do this. But I have a few questions for you, Dave, that are not necessarily just the evidence related, but what did you do before you did all of this? What was your past life in this life like before you realized everything is a mirage? Everything is not as it appears to be.
So I grew up in Fairfield County, very, very nice area. I got B pluses in school because school was boring to me, but I knew how to memorize and regurgitate. And I did just enough where the teachers were happy and my parents wouldn't yell at me. Okay. So, and I just was a regular guy. And then I went to college. I did great in college, and I left college and I joined corporate America. I worked in the printing industry for 20 years. And then I moved into the solar industry, and I dominated. I worked for a corporation, a big solar company. And I started a commercial division, which they're like, oh, commercial solar power, it doesn't work. You can't finance it. Figured the whole thing out. And we took the company to the next level, and the company got bought. And then the company that bought us said, we're not doing commercial anymore. I said, okay. And I started my own company, something that I never thought I could do, right? I was never thought about being an entrepreneur, but I put it on my vision board 5 years ahead of time. I said, I want to be the CEO of my own company. I wanted all these different things, right? I wanted to be the CEO of my own company. That's the one thing that I kind of giggled at. I'm like, I don't even know what a CEO does. Okay. I'm like, I have no idea. Right. Then I started this company with a couple partners, and it took off, and it was doing amazingly well. Well, I just have the American dream. I went to school, I studied, I went in corporate America, I left corporate America, I started my own company, and I'm making more money than I ever thought I could make. But then during this time, I'm doing the Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole podcast. I'm figuring out this whole flat earth thing, and I'm realizing that this world isn't what we think it is, and it's literally going into the dark ages, if you will, right now with what's going on. And it's like, if people don't do something, we don't have a future. And I always say on the podcast, why am I doing this? I'm doing it for me and my kids, right? I'm doing it for me, right? I'm being selfish, right? I want a better world for me and my kids and everybody else, including you and everyone listening. I want this world to wake up. And here's the thing, people are like, well, there's nothing I could do. The elite are so powerful. The only power anyone has over you is in your imagination, okay? And if everybody woke up, you don't even have to talk to the elite. They're finished, right? There's nothing. It's all a power game. It's all a control game. And people don't understand that. So that was my previous life. I walked away from it all. I was literally, I looked up at the sky and I said, God, give me a sign. Like, I'm thinking of walking away from everything I worked my entire life towards. I was told this is how you do it. I took it to the next level, started my own company. I'm like, this is it. I'm going to work until I'm 65 and something's saying, walk away, walk away. And I asked for a sign. I got 3 signs like in a row, bam, bam, bam. I'm like, okay, stop. And I walked away without fear. And now I'm talking to people like you. There's nothing more gratifying than waking somebody up to flat Earth. People are like, oh, you're selling an app for $3. I'm like, no, I'm giving you the tools to wake up with censorship. I'm giving you the tools to wake up other people. And we're now hitting such a momentum. It's unbelievable. And I really think that 2022 is the year flat Earth is going to change a lot of things. And that's happening. I used to wake people up to all the other deceptions. They go right back to sleep. You wake someone up to flat Earth, you're thinking about it every day because it affects every single person every single day. And it's amazing. And also with the app, it costs the numbers to keep this app, the amount of money I put in every month, the server fees, everything, it is becoming exponential, but I'm not complaining because I'm able to support it with the people that subscribe. The subscriptions are very important. But if anybody can't get it, like you're on your parents' phone plan, they won't let you get it or whatever, send me an email. Tell me if you have an Android phone, I'll give it to you for free. Okay.
I want to say something, Dave. You've touched on something beautiful here. A lot of us that are doing what we're doing in our own ways and coming at it with our own inspiration and purpose, like you're passionate, very, very passionate, very, very given in this. But I think a lot of times people don't understand. It's not just a lot of work and time that goes into it. It is money investments. It is travel. It is all of there's so much that goes into doing this work that we don't even want people to see because it doesn't really matter. But when you say you're selling an app for $3, I can just tell you, this is a gift. It's just a gift with a little bit of a tip money that goes into a tip jar. I can tell you this from own experience. We know how extensive this work is. So, for those, if you go and pay $5 for 1 cup of coffee, that's going to be gone in about 7 minutes. And you don't really think about it anymore. But then you see such a beautiful plethora of information in one single app. And I'm not even saying Dave is telling the whole truth, because Dave can't tell you he's telling the whole truth because he's an explorer. He's just found a lot of great things that don't add up and more things that do add up. So I told you from the get-go, Dave, we're not here to debunk. We're not here to prove. What we're doing is showing, opening new doors, and inviting people to make up their own, or not even make up, explore, go and explore. But you touched on something very important. What is it that happens? Let's say people say, okay, I get it. This is very, very different than what I thought it is. What is the next thing people can do, and how does it actually begin to become a change in their life?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I believe that our mission here on Earth, we're having our soul experience in this meat suit that we call ourselves. We're connected to our source, which I believe are in the heavenly realm directly above us. Our goal here is to spread, is to expand the mind of the creator. That's exactly what you're saying, right? It's to literally expand the mind of creator. If everybody just, who said it? I was listening to Crow 777 radio, and Saint Germain's grandson or whatever, this guy is super connected, amazing guy, said, pray, have faith, charity, and action, right? If you do those 3 things, the whole world manifests. The old saying, don't put the cart in front of the horse. Absolutely. Put the thought in front of the action, right? You make it like you already have it, feel it into existence, right? They don't want us to know that you can feel things into existence. The biggest conspiracy in the world is the universe, whatever you want to call it, is conspiring to deliver every single thought you have to you super fast. Okay.
It is, and it is the conspiracy is to make us believe that we're powerless, small, and insignificant. That's the real conspiracy.
Exactly.
And at the same time, harnessing the power of our minds to bring about a dark vision. That's literally what they're doing all day, every day.
Think
They're
about
trying
this.
to insert themselves into our minds, hijack this beautiful, and I'm not talking about that which you can see, but the greatest power is that which you can't see, and hijack this to bring about their vision. We've talked about it so often. So you see, all roads lead to the same realizations that we are much more powerful than we think we are.
Absolutely.
And the more powerful we become, the more clear the truth becomes. Now, Dave, I know our viewers have a lot more questions. I can hear them in the ether. I know. And don't think I don't hear you, Inspired Tribe. But here's the thing. You decide. If we should bring Dave back on for another conversation, let us know in the comments. Let us know your questions, or send us an email, or reach out to Dave. We'd love to have you back. I don't want to overwhelm the audience with just too much.
Too late for that.
But I want to say thank you. Thank you for coming on. I know there's so much more to share. And perhaps, if you decide to come back on, we'd love to have you.
I'm happy to come back anytime you like. This is a fantastic conversation. There's so much more to learn. Here's the one thing. The mind killers are fear and boredom. Okay. Ask any one of those blue dots on that map. Have you been bored for a split second since you discovered that we're not on a spinning ball? And the answer is absolutely not. Right. We're all like, we don't like going to sleep because we're going to miss out. There's so much to learn. And it's so inspiring. You go out into nature, or if you're stuck at home on a rainy day or whatever, you're just learning information. I'm always researching something else, and it's mind blowing, right? Last thing, they teach us in school, in indoctrination camp, that we only use 10% of our brains. That's actually the goal of school, because the other 90% that connects you to source and nature and to your higher realms, they want to shut that down. They're fluoridating us, they're poisoning us, they're poisoning our minds with the news, and they don't want us connecting to those areas because that will challenge them. Right. They want us learning accounting and marketing and management and becoming good little corporate worker slaves. They don't want us. They teach us, crappy math rather than vortex mathematics and sacred geometry and everything else, stuff that people are like, well, what is that? Probably your people probably know. I've heard of those stuff. But once you start seeing this, it's like, I'm never bored. There's never a moment of boredom. Before I was a flat earther, I was like, I got an hour to kill before I have to go somewhere, and I'd stare at the wall or watch television. I'd like, that's ridiculous.
I haven't been bored in decades, even though flat Earth hasn't been on the forefront of my mind. But as I said, nothing is as it seems, and this is really you can see the documentary The Matrix or Wag the Dog and so many others. And they come at it from very different angles. But what they're telling you is nothing is as it seems. So if you don't explore what that means and start with the inner truth that's first here, and then go, you will always spin around in circles, never really feeling and exploring how great this whole ride can be. And I think there's so much beyond our current scope of understanding. But with this, we can perceive, and then the mind follows. It kind of like you're building those new connections in your brain. Everything is beginning to be rewired the way it was supposed to be, but it's up to us. And I want to thank you, Dave, for the work you do, simply because what you said in the past 5 minutes might be even more important than all the evidence you've shown us, because the conclusion you came to was, hey, this is not just a random fluke chance here that things were put together, and from the amoeba to the human being, it's not randomness. There's intelligent design. There's a clear evidence that there is a creator, and if you really dive into it with your heart, it's an all-loving creator. It can't be any other way. There's so much harmony that we can experience if we open our minds to it. So Dave, thank you. Thank you for joining us today. This is an open invitation. We'd love to have you back. And Inspired Tribe, you ask the questions. Let us know what you want to hear more about, and we'll come back with Dave. Is that okay for you, Dave?
That sounds great. And, if you have a hard question, instead of saying, how do you explain, this proves the earth, ask the question and we'll address it. There's no questions that we're not willing to address. And it's amazing. So let's make our vision, and again, our vision in the heliocentric world is limited. We're in a prison. Our vision is infinite in a flat earth world. So let's make our infinite vision our reality rather than the documentary Idiocracy a reality.
This is a perfect closing statement because I just had a very clear deja vu. You've come through space and time. I've heard you say this before, the way you said it to me, and it just came back. So that's how synchronistically this is all connected. Flat Earth David Weiss, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
And Inspired Tribe, thank you for your time, your dedication, your appreciation, your love, your comments, your everything. We love you. We appreciate you deeply. And we'll be back with you very soon.